Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and another live stream. And after a long old week, another tactical preview. Manchester United are back in action this weekend against Fulham away from home. A really tricky game, but a big one. A pretty promising start last week against Arsenal, but of course we didn't actually get any points on the board, and we want to change that as soon as possible because we're fed up of being in 15th. So today, the plan for the stream is to head over to the tactics board for large parts and discuss basically how Manchester United should be setting up for this football match, because I think today we've got some really interesting talking points as the players are getting fitter, players are returning from injury, they're getting sharper, they're learning the system. I think we've got a lot to talk about. I think we learned a lot last week against Arsenal about where the squad is at this moment in time, who should be playing, who shouldn't be playing. There's a lot to talk about. I do apologise for the fact that I was just a few seconds late to the start of this stream. I'm battling hay fever this morning and just had a bit of a sneezing fit just before starting, so I do apologise for the slight delay. But we're here now, and I want to talk to you guys in the chat. But is it tricky? Good question. I think it is. 1-1 draw last week against Brighton for Fulham. I think they're a good side, well coached under Marco Silva. Of course, in the chat, as always, we've got David kicking things off with a gifted membership. David, thank you very much, as always. Guys, you know what to do. If someone is gifted memberships or renewing their memberships, fill that chat with love hearts, with flames, with W's, if we've even still got that emoji. If not, just fill it with Bruno Fernandez's because he's the GOAT, a bit like David. And we also have Kieran in the chat with his 3-month membership. Kieran, thank you very much, my friend. Tactical nonsense, bring back Callum. We need a cup final for that, mate. We need a cup final, a 7-hour stream where we all question reality and Callum crashes in at the last minute. That's what we need for Callum to return. Getting me through my work from home, AJ2 at the rescue. Good morning, Joey. Hope you are well, my friend. Hope you're well. And remember to do the work. Don't really, just listen to the stream, mate. That's all that's really important. Will be crucial to assess our consistency in performance. I think that's really the big feeling from last week, right? We had that great performance against Arsenal. Okay, great is a stretch. We had a good performance against Arsenal. And everyone immediately is like, okay, I need to see us again to know whether we're actually kind of good at football now or whether that was a one-off and United have sold us a dream. That's sort of where we're at. And it's quite nice, I think. It's quite nice because we haven't had United for a week. We're all like eagerly waiting. I think last season we went into match days almost dreading them a little bit. It's nice, even considering we lost last week, that there's actually a bit of positivity around the football club and that we are looking forward to this match. And actually, I've missed United in midweek. I've missed us playing football matches. So I am really looking forward to this one. Have a good morning at work, Kieran, my man. I'll see you soon. So we also got Steve in the chat as well with 5 gifted memberships. Steve, thank you very much. You guys are in a generous mood this morning. Steve, thank you very much for the 5 gifted memberships. If you did get gifted a membership, make sure to say thank you very much. And if you didn't get a gifted membership, unlucky, but still spam some love hearts in the chat. Thank you very much, Steve. This game has banana skin all over it. These are the teams we should beat, that have been our biggest problem. I think in terms of almost a mentality we've questioned over the past few years, right? We seem to be able to get up for the big games, your Arsenals, your Cities, your Liverpools, and then falter in some of these easier games. Although we should make it clear that Fulham are a very good side. Like I said, they're coached very well. If they were in any other league in the world, they would be towards the top end of the table. I think they're a really good side with some really likeable players. Yeah, I quite like this Fulham team. Yes, there is also some transfer talk going on surrounding Manchester United at the moment, in particular Le Mans in goal. We've done a video already. If you want to check that out, check it out after stream perhaps. It is already on the channel. Go have a look. What do I think of Le Mans? I think he's a good young goalkeeper. He doesn't convince me right now. I'm not sure that he's someone that comes into the team and straight away boots Onana out of the starting 11. I'm not convinced of that. But what do I know? I said in the last stream I didn't think we would sign a goalkeeper this summer. So it proves I know nothing in terms of transfer news. If you've got a membership, come join us in the Discord. Steve, you are absolutely right, my friend. And even if you're not a membership, get yourself in the Discord server anyway. It is linked at the top of the chat. It's completely free to join. And there's over 700 Manchester United fans talking about football, waffling away, but in a really respectful way. So it's a lot of fun. Somehow we seem to beat Fulham in the league. Yeah, our record against them isn't terrible the past few seasons. Of course, we started the campaign last year with a 1-0 win, the Joshua Zirkzee goal. Callum, I'm not sure, my friend. I am not sure. Anyway, I think what we should do is just get straight to the 11 because I think once again we've got a lot of talking points. And probably the biggest talking point on a day of goalkeeper links to Manchester United, we have to discuss the current goalkeepers because whether we sign Le Mans or not, I don't know. But he's not going to be starting Sunday. I do know that much. So instead, it'll be one of Onana, Bayindir, and Tom Heaton. Last week we did this poll, and I think Onana edged ahead and won the poll. But there was always a little bit of uncertainty around fitness and things like that. Of course, Bayindir played the game instead, and largely had a very good game. It was one of his better Manchester United performances. I think his distribution was really good, and that's something that I've been very critical of, his passing game. But I think he was really impressive. But then for the goal, is he fouled? I don't know. Yeah, there's an argument there. It's soft either way. I think it's one of those ones where whatever the on-pitch decision is, it gets stuck with. And refs don't tend to give those. He just doesn't do very well. He just doesn't do very well. So, did he take his opportunity? It's difficult to say because so much of his game was good. But then if you lose 1-0 in a football match in the Premier League and it's because your keeper cost you, like, you can't exactly say it was a good performance. So it's a little bit of a difficult one. We've also got Adele in the chat with a super chat once again. Thank you very much, my friend. Saying we are going to batter Fulham, Burnley and that cup side. We need to score an abundance of goals in those 3 games to gain confidence. I mean, that would be beautiful, right? I know we sort of said this last week, the hypothetical, but we'll do it again this week. Imagine we win 2 or 3-0 against Fulham this weekend. We get ourselves a signing or 2 before transfer deadline day. We win convincingly in the cup. We beat Burnley. I'd call that momentum. And that would be very, very nice. So yeah, hopefully you're right. I do think Fulham are going to be tricky. I think this is a trickier game than what people may give it credit for. But I am also quite confident, just like I was last week. I'm confident that we can see a good level of performance. But thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Who do we reckon then in goal? If VAR was in the mood, Bayindir gets a foul called and Cunha gets a penalty. I do think the Cunha one is a penalty. I do think that. I'm not sure about the Bayindir one. I don't think it's quite a foul. Although, supposedly, the FA, the referees, VAR are cracking down on contact in the box on set pieces and pulling and things like that. Mason Mount is could be fouled in the build-up to that. So, I don't know. I'm not going to question the referees too much. I think what we need to try and do is control what we can control, which unfortunately isn't the refs, but it is our level of performance, I think. So, like I said, let's go through from the goalkeeper. What do we reckon? Who would you be going for in net in this game? Because there is genuinely a temptation to play Tom Heaton. We don't know how fit Onana is. I believe the news during the week has been that it's sort of felt that Onana will come into the team, which wouldn't surprise me. But what do you guys reckon? Have your say. We're not going to go to a poll for this because we're going to do some polls a little bit later on. So basically, put a name in the chat and let me know why. So pick a goalkeeper and also give me just a brief reason as to why you think they would be good for this football match. Blaming the referees is lazy. Let's score goals. Exactly. We can complain towards the refs, but at the end of the day, we shouldn't have given away such a cheap corner and we should have been better on the ball to score more goals ourselves. So I completely agree. By the way, guys, if we are seeing spammed messages in the chat, a message repeated over and over again, they're not going to be read out and they will be deleted. I try to get to as many messages as possible, but there is a lot of you in the chat these days because the support has just been amazing. But, yeah, if you could not spam the messages, that'd be great. We need goals. A keeper mistake every now and then wouldn't cost us dearly all the time. Exactly, if we were scoring more. I think David also made a good point here. It's a problem when you have a goalkeeper who doesn't fill you with confidence every time a cross or shot comes in. The problem is, I feel like that's all our goalkeepers. I don't know, particularly by India last weekend after he made that error. Sort of every ball that comes towards him, you're just like, please deal with it. The problem is we've got 3 keepers like that. I also think it's a problem. I know we've had an injury, of course, with Onana. But I think it's a problem when we're in game week 2 of the Premier League and we don't know who our first choice goalkeeper is. That's not great. I think goalkeeper is such a weird position, such a niche position. Niche? Easy for me to say. Niche position. One that you've got to get right. I don't like that we're 22nd of August now and we don't know who our number 1 is this season. Because it might be a signing still, which I'm not too comfortable with that. Did I see some gifted memberships from Adele? I did. Adele, thank you very much. 5 gifted memberships. Like I said, you guys are in a generous mood this morning. Thank you very much. Guys, you know what to do. Love hearts all over that chat. Thank you very much again, my friend. Anyway, let's have a look in the chat. What names am I seeing? I'm seeing Bayindir. I'm seeing Bayindir. Seeing Bayindir. Onana. I think I'm seeing more Bayindir than I am Bayindir to give him confidence. It looks like you guys going for Bayindir in goal. I will let you guys keep chatting for a few moments because I know there's sometimes a bit of delay. So I will let you guys keep chatting along. But what would I do? I think I would go for Onana just because I think if you ask me who would I want over the course of a 38-game season, I don't trust any of them, but it would be Onana. If it has to be one of these guys, between him and Bayindir, I think I would go Onana. We saw last week, and Chad's just made a brilliant point on the same theme. We saw last week a United side that tried to move the ball out in the first phase and were trying to find those balls into midfield. That's Onana's game. Like, it seems weird as we're finally maybe starting to be a team that can play in the first phase more. To then leave Onana out seems odd. That's why we signed him. You know, we signed him for his first phase play. So he would be my option. But if you guys disagree, I also understand because Onana has done a lot of damage to the trust that we have in him. So I think it's fair. Best of the worst. Exactly. Exactly. If it's Bayindir for confidence, that's good. But he's not a good goalkeeper at the end of the day. Yeah, not good enough for what we need. To be honest, Bayindir has a good distribution. I think previously, some of his distribution work has been quite poor, particularly with his longer play. A lot of his clipped passes tend to sort of sail out for throw-ins. But last week it was on the money. It was pretty spot on. I think pretty much every pass that you would expect him to make, he did, plus some more direct ones, which you wouldn't normally expect from him or any goalkeeper. I think he had a very good game on the ball. Stick Heaton in the net. I mean, Bobby the Bob. First of all, good morning to you, my friend. It's genuinely tempting. You know what? We are going to go for a poll. I said we won't do a poll, and this now means I should have just done a poll from the start, but I didn't. But we do need one. Am I going to include Heaton, or is he just not realistic? I think it might be Onana. I think if I had to bet who Amorim was going to go for, I think I'd go Onana. How do we have 3 of the worst goalkeepers in the top 5 leagues in Europe? I don't think we have 3 of the worst. I think we just lack the... Like, if this was your goalkeeper squad depth, I don't think Bayindir is a bad backup goalkeeper. I don't think Tom Heaton is. I don't think Onana is. It's just... The first choice one isn't good enough at the moment. I am still of the opinion that Onana can be a very useful player for us. I'm absolutely of that opinion. I think the ideal solution for me is for him to improve, to get better, and bring confidence to the backline. But I do think, you know, in a weird way, trust is so easy to break, right? It takes ages to build up trust in life, in football, with a goalkeeper to the centre-backs, the full-backs, or in our situation, the back 3 and the wing-backs. It takes a long time to build trust in your goalkeeper, and it can shatter so quickly. Is Onana ever really going to be trusted? Are we ever really going to have confidence in him? I'm not too sure, which is why goalkeeper links don't surprise me in terms of a new one. But I still like him. I think there's a player there. Versus Arsenal, the first phase was elite. I'm actually very impressed. It was really good. I think we're going to have to find more solutions. I sort of said that in... Was it the last video or the one before? The one before. I do think we're going to need to find more solutions because I think it was slightly one-dimensional still, even though very effective. But that's a great starting point because previously we had nothing. If we can build on it, keep building and find more solutions, that would be great. I want United to be a team that can play in the first phase because we haven't felt like that ever, really. I don't remember watching a United team that excelled in these areas, so it would be nice for that to change. See, this is how you know that the trust and the reputation of Onana is in the bin, because there's an argument that Bayindir cost us points last week. Right, I think we win the match last week if he doesn't throw that ball in the net, because I think the confidence, the momentum of the game would have been different. And I think when it was toe-to-toe that football match, I think we looked the better team. When Arsenal sat deep, it was always going to be difficult to break them down because You know, they play 4 centre-backs across the back. They've got 2 holding-ish midfielders out of possession in Zubimendi and Rice. They were always going to be difficult to break down, but they were able to drop deep because they were 1-0 up. I think at 0-0, with both teams just sort of headbutting each other, going at it, I think we looked a better side. So I think we would have gone on to win the game, in my opinion. But still, by India is being picked ahead of Onana, which shows what people think of Onana right now. I agree what you said about who you want for 38 games. We need one number one. If we don't get a new keeper this window, we need to build on Onana this season. Yeah, I think that's my opinion. I think that's my opinion on the situation. If it has to be one of the ones we've got currently, I'd want it to be Onana, I think. Even though I do understand his reputation is damaged. Regardless of what I think, you guys have gone for Bayinde in the poll. So that is who we are going to put in the net. And like I said, I think that really highlights how much Onana damaged the trust last season. Anyway, moving on to a bit more of a positive situation. The back 3, who I think performed very, very well last week. De Ligt, his best game in a Manchester United shirt. Up against Viktor Gyökeres, completely dominated him. There's one ball in the channel which he doesn't quite get right. But if that's what we're picking up on from a 90-minute performance, or yeah, it was 90 minutes, that's not half bad. I think De Ligt was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. He made Gyökeres look kind of stupid, to be honest. He absolutely dominated him. I loved it. A very mature performance, a very measured performance, but still applying that aggression where we needed it. It was controlled aggression. Beautiful, beautiful performance. I think Luke Shaw played pretty well. I think on the ball, I still want more from him. I think these outside centre-backs can give a lot to us. And in possession, Shaw and Euro both felt a little bit safe to me last week. I think they can both do more. But perhaps that's first game of the season. Nerves, you're playing against Arsenal, you don't want to take risks. But I think they both played pretty well. Defensively, they allowed us to get on the front foot. But we do have depth, we do have options. Maguire, of course, came onto the pitch in that game. Sort of played a striker role at one point, but he is always an option for centre-back. We've also got Aidan Heaven, who is always in the conversation. We've got Tyler Fredrickson, who is in the conversation. Mazraoui and Licha still not back just yet, I don't think. I don't think there's much more to say there. De Ligt is the most underrated player in the squad. He's a class act. He was very good. Very, very good last weekend. I am someone who casts questions over him. I'm not convinced by him as a centre-back. I'm still happy to say that. You know, I'm not convinced by him. But I would love to be proven wrong. You know, I want everyone at the end of the season to go, haha, AJ, you're an idiot. You were wrong. De Ligt is amazing. That's our central centre-back for the future. I would love that to be the case. You know, hopefully it is. That would be great. Could go for the same back 3. Maybe Mazraoui right centre-back, Euro left centre-back. Yeah, so that is just the question I want to ask. Do we know about Mazraoui and his fitness? I personally haven't seen anything to suggest he's going to come into the 11. If he is fit, there is a conversation to have because he does give us something a little bit different. So does anyone actually know? Could someone tell me? Ten Hag really did screw us with his signings. De Ligt and Martinez, only 2 that have been decent in my opinion. I think we've got other players who can be decent though. You know, Mason Mount was a Ten Hag sign and he could still be quality for us. Xerxes as well, I think is one who could be good for us. I think certain other ones it was almost a little bit at the wrong time as well. I don't think Mazraoui starts. Yeah, I don't expect it. We've got Adele in the chat again. In the super chat. Oh, and he's put an Onana in some serious conversations of worst ever Manchester United signings. Worse than Bebe, Jemba, Donny van de Beek, Sanchez, Falcao. The only contender would be Sancho. I think Sancho's the worst, right? I think Sancho's the worst. Sancho's the worst signing in history, which is so frustrating because he's such a good footballer. But he's just a silly man. Silly man. But thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. I'm assuming that means you voted by India in the poll, my friend. He's not the finished article, but I really trust De Ligt's profile and mentality. I think his mentality is what really gives him the chance to be great at United. I think he is mentally the sort of player that we need. Like I said, I do have questions over, you know, certain technical sides of the game. There are a few concerns. But if he can shut me up, that'd be great. I'd love it. I would love it. I think for me, I would like to see the same back 3 from last week. Last year, I was heavy on Maguire ahead of De Ligt. I think as we're now trying to evolve and take that next step, I think I can see De Ligt going ahead of Maguire in the pecking order this season. I think that's what I can see. And in terms of a player like Luke Shaw and the fitness concerns that we've had in the past, we've had a week off. So if we can't play him after a week off, when can we play him? So I don't think that's too much of a concern. I like that back three. I like it. I think we should go with it again. Again, can we challenge these guys, though, the outside centre-backs? Can we challenge them to be more aggressive? We saw Lenny Yoro in pre-season really giving us an element of ball progression, but also creativity in the final third. I want to see more of that this weekend. I think naturally Arsenal was a tricky first game, so you perhaps play it a little bit safer. This week, I want to see United playing against a Fulham team that will be passive at times. I want to see United on the front foot again, taking the game to Fulham and being more free with the movement, expressing ourselves more in a game that we feel that we should win. In terms of United trying to express themselves, midfield is big. Midfield is big, and there's some serious talking points off the back of last weekend. Casemiro and Bruno started the last game in midfield. Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes was the double pivot, and I think they did pretty well. I think their passing range was really useful to us, particularly switching quickly in behind Arsenal when we were looking to get our wing backs around the back. I think that was something they did quite well. We know that these two are probably the best progressive passers at the club, but we do also know that they come up a little bit short in certain areas. They are not players to carry the ball through the midfield. Neither of them are great dribblers. Neither of them are particularly press resistant, and both of them, certainly Casemiro, struggle a little bit with the big open spaces off the ball. Do we have solutions on the bench? Potentially Ugarte, who had a horror cameo off the bench. I don't think he done anything right. I don't think he made a good decision, unfortunately. But he is still an option for this game because we do know that physically he can cover the ground a little bit quicker than Casemiro. He's got a bit more bite. He sort of zips about a little bit more. So he's an option for the game. And then there's Kobbie Mainoo, a player who is a big talking point this week, despite not playing a minute, but it's actually because he didn't play a minute. People a little bit concerned about Kobbie Mainoo and his Manchester United future. Now, my take earlier on in the week was that I don't think Kobbie done... Well, sorry, I'm not too concerned about Kobbie yet. You know, one game week, Kobbie not playing, it's not the end of the world for me. He's a young player. Tactically, if he didn't fit what we wanted to do against Arsenal, which was often director passing from midfield, then it makes sense not to play him. If we see another week here where he doesn't get minutes, then we're going to go and fight Amorim. Okay, so not worried yet, but we do need to make sure that we integrate him into the team because he should be one of our key players, in my opinion. I think he's good enough that he should be one of our best. Oh, Dave is in the chat and he is talking my language. He says, I would love Elliot Anderson from Forest. He would be incredible for us. After not getting Baleba, Elliot Anderson would be my pivot. That's the player that I would move to next. Steve was right. You're going to set me off. I could sit here and talk for the next 15 hours about Elliot Anderson. Such a good player. I would love him. He's one of my favourite footballers in the world right now. Not necessarily one of the best, let's make that clear, but one of my favourites. He's my go-to if I want to enjoy watching football. If I'm losing a bit of motivation with the work, I go watch Elliot Anderson footage, and suddenly I got my desire back to talk about football. So he's a good man, that boy. I think Ugarte could end up being one of our worst ever signings. I'd love him to prove me wrong. He's struggling. He's struggling at Manchester United, I think, a little bit. He's struggling to find himself in the team. I still think he can come good as a squad player. Again, I will go back to the comment that I made the day he signed for this football club. I said, I think he's a good player. Not suited to what we want to do, but I think a good player. I always rated him when he played in Portugal for Sporting. I really liked him. Really liked him at the time. I was probably Ugarte's biggest fan at the time. As far as I'm aware, I was like the first person to do an Ugarte video back then. He has not developed in the way that I wanted him to develop. I think his time with PSG didn't help. I think they used him in the wrong way, which has made him worse as a footballer. I still think there's a good player there. I think he's a squad player at most. I don't think he's ever going to be a player that breaks into the starting 11 and plays week in, week out. I think he can be a good squad player for us. Can, not will. We'll have to wait and see how he develops. Why wouldn't he be suited? He played under Amorim. I think just the big comment is he played under Amorim in Portugal. What, 2.5 years ago now? First of all, football changes in 2.5 years because this sport is constantly evolving and going through different tactical cycles. But also, it's the Premier League. It's just a very different environment. The partners that we can offer him at United are very different. The centre backs we've got are very different. The wing backs are very different. It's not necessarily like for like. What Amorim required in Portugal may not be the same as what he requires in England. That's constantly going to change, I think. I don't think he's in the worst conversation signing. Like I said, I think he can be a very useful squad player for us. But we're going to have to see if he does. Apologies for the little Elliot Anderson side note there, but if I see his name, I'm going to talk about him. Anyway, let's get back on track. Midfield 2, for this game, who are you going for? Now, normally, we would go, well, Bruno Fernandes has to play, so it's about finding him a partner. But that's not necessarily the case, because Bruno can go into the front three. That is an option that we have. So how would you guys be lining up in terms of your midfield too? What would we think? Can Lisandro Martinez work at midfield? I think he could, right? And I think a lot of the reason why people talk about Licha maybe going into midfield is because of his ball playing ability. The only thing I would say is when you go and, I wouldn't normally encourage this, but go and watch a compilation of Lisandro Martinez, right? And the reason why I would encourage that is because compilations take a player's best moments. When you watch those, all of his best moments are when he's got time, he's got things in front of him, and he's picking out a pass. And I don't think you get that same in midfield. So he could do it, but I'm personally not someone that would encourage it. I don't really explore that option too much, just because I think his nature is to have things in front of him and for him to find a way through it rather than being in it. So I wouldn't go against his nature as a player. I would leave him deeper where he can see things. That's my personal preference, though. I love this and would talk all day, but Casemiro and Bruno is the pivot for now. We can't be too greedy this window. Steve, why'd you have to ruin my day, man? But no, yeah, it might have to be. It might have to be. Bruno Casemiro most likely, because we should have more of the ball. I think if that is to be the case, something that I would really challenge of the two of them, particularly Casemiro, is the passing has got to be measured. I think we can force Fulham at times deeper. I think they're a team under Marco Silva who don't mind going at times deeper into the block. They'll try and jump out, they'll try and press, but they don't mind letting the opposition have the ball for spells. I think when we're in those moments, Bruno is our creative outlet in midfield. We know that. I think Casemiro needs to be the one that plays a little bit safer. I think he needs to be the one that keeps us ticking rather than always finding the killer pass. And that's not to say he can't do it at all. Of course, he can still pick it up here and he can switch it out to the left and then he can switch it out to the right. But I think what United need to do this weekend, what I'm looking for, is the ability to sustain attacks. I think we know that United are good in transition. We've got Cunha, we've got Mbumo, Shesko, Bruno, Ahmad, Dorgu. There's loads of them who can carry the ball, run off the ball, and be dangerous. I want to see a United team this week that shows me that they can get on it and control it and build slower attacks so the team actually moves forward together. So when we get into the final third and we look to put the ball into the box, there's actually someone in there. Last week we were moving at times so quick that by the time we got to the final third here, we deliver, we look up and there's not a soul in the box. So this week I want to see still intensity, still pace, because I think that's what United are all about. That's our DNA. But I do think we need the ability to control the attack a little bit better. And if this is to be the pivot, it does fall down to these two. Question I would ask is, for the sake of entertaining conversation and not just having the same boring midfield talk, could we go these two? Could we go these two? If we're talking about a United side, which we think might be able to control the ball in this game, could you go for Cobby? Sorry, let me just mute my phone. It's constantly buzzing. I do apologise. Incredibly unprofessional. I'm just a popular guy. What can I say? What do we think of these two in midfield? Are they two that have enough to control the game? Cobby isn't typically one which will do it with his passing. You know, he's not a long-range passer. He's not a metronomic passer on the ball. But we do know he has an amazing ability to control the tempo of the game with his carrying and his slower carrying. We always talk about the way he sort of brings opposition towards him and then speeds up past him, and then he'll slow the game right down again. I think Cobby has the ability to influence tempo in that way. So not necessarily with his passing, the way we would normally talk about it, but I think he can do it with his when the ball's at his feet and he's changing like that. Is there an opportunity to see, first of all, could Cobby play as the deepest one with Bruno higher? That's where Cobby made his debut for United against Everton. Could he do that? Maybe. Could we see a game where Bruno drops a little bit deeper? If we're trying to be more progressive, could we get Bruno deeper on the ball and creating from there? Or do we not have enough? What do we reckon? What do we reckon? He's slow in transition, that's the problem. If you're talking about Cobby, so is Casemiro. This is the thing. It's difficult. Sander Berge alone would eat both. He's a very good player. I would have liked him for United. If the opposition are in a low block and letting us have the ball, we could play the two of them, but not start a Premier League match yet. Does the system change that? We've seen, or we saw, I should say, last weekend, Dorgu and Dallo. Does having 5 defenders on the pitch change what we need in terms of physicality in midfield? You know, I saw a great tweet. I can't, for the life of me, think of the name, and I feel horrible now. Who was it? I'm useless with names. But a tweet about trying to play to players' strengths rather than masking their weaknesses. And I think it's a really interesting point because that's a way that I approach life, right? I think play to your strengths rather than trying to protect your weaknesses. Yet when it comes to a football pitch, we always look for this perfect balance. We've got a ball carrier or we've got an expressive player on the ball. So what we need is a defensive one next to him. That's how we look at it, right? We try and find that balance. But what if actually the better solution is to take this expressive player and partner him with another expressive player, two that will then express themselves together? Is that the better way to approach this? You know, if you want to get the best out of Cobby, yes, you could get a ground-eating, duel-winning machine next to him. But that's going to give Cobby less to work with on the ball. If you play a Bruno, someone who loves little combinations, like Cobby does, that could help him. We saw last season when Cobby would come on from the bench, him and Xerxes have a way of playing that really complements each other. So is that a way that we should be looking at squad building and team building a little bit differently? Just an interesting question. Like I said, I saw it on Twitter and it got me thinking. It got me almost challenging the way that we often talk about United. Do we go about it the wrong way sometimes? Are we trying to find a player that will do some of Cobby's defensive work for him when actually we should be looking for a player which is going to help Cobby thrive more than ever on the ball? Perhaps. Does Smith Rowe need to be locked up? There's question marks over his fitness for a start. He didn't play last week from the start. I think he got 17 minutes from the bench, something like that. So I don't know his fitness situation. If not, the player they played last week was a young fella called King. Now, I haven't seen anything of him, but he's 18 years old. Started for Fulham last week, which is good to see a young player give him the chance. But I don't know an awful lot about him, to tell the truth. A powerful runner would hammer past the two of them. Van der Ven, Adama, even Smith Rowe. It would be like having no central midfielders in moments. That's where it's weird. I love the idea of trying to get the best of them, but also my mind almost has that safety of wanting to go for balance. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. I think realistically, this week will be Casemiro and Bruno. But I think what we need to try and do as a channel and as a community at some point in the near future is figure out if there's a different way we can talk about midfield, particularly when we're being linked with someone like Stiller, who I've seen a few of you guys mention in the chat. A good player, no doubt, but worse than Cobby Mainoo off the ball, in my opinion. I think he's worse. Yeah, that's the sort of player that we're looking for. Stiller doesn't quite add up. PSG play the optimistic football you're describing. Yeah, I think we would look at PSG and go, Neves and Vitinha can't play together because they're too small. So we'd want to try and mask their weaknesses. We'd get Vitinha, try and mask his weaknesses by getting a big destroyer. But instead what PSG did is they got him another expressive player and they play beautiful football. Granted, they're good defensively, they play well, but you know, it's a different approach to it. Steve has made a good point there about Gravenberch last season. He's not a holding midfielder. You know, I looked at Liverpool's balance in midfield last year and thought it's a little bit weak defensively. That they don't have that proper six, the destroyer sitting in front of defence. Yet it worked. So it is just something to think about. It is definitely something for us to consider as we move forward. I think for this one, though, it's these two. It's these two in the middle. So what we're going to do now is head out to the wing-backs. Last week, Dorgu and Dalot. It could, of course, always be Ahmad. Does Diego Leon come into the conversation? Not quite, I don't think. Not quite. I don't think he's ready to start a Premier League match. So for me, it's between these three for the two positions. Also, apologies for the doggo barking in the background. I'd assume the postman has... Wait, no, the postman's already been. So maybe someone's trying to break in. If they are, these things happen in life. These things happen in life, but I do apologise for that. Isn't Stiller not the correct profile we're looking for? Probably just better to play Cobby. Yeah, I'm unsure on Stiller. I think he's a very good passer. I went and watched a load of footage last night after the links. I think he's a really nice passer off his left foot. I think he's very good. I'm not sure he's what we need. I think physically he's lighter than Wharton, which is a concern because we had concerns about Wharton signing for United. I think Stiller is physically worse than Wharton. He's like a worse version of him. I don't know. Anyway, let's stick to the conversation for today, which is Manchester United against Fulham. Realistically, the conversation is on the right-hand side because everyone will want Dorgu on the left because we're not going to want Dalot on the left. So Dorgu almost picks himself there for the time being with the current squad that we've got. Eventually, I've said it several times, I like the idea of trying next summer to get us a winger who could also play there and offer us something. We don't have it right now. So it's Dalot or Ahmad on the right. That's the question. That's the conversation that we need to have. What do we think? What do we think of these two on the right-hand side? And who would we go for? Now, the instinct is to go for the more attacking option of Ahmad. Okay, I might actually need to go. The doggos are still going. I might need to go check it. I will be back in a minute or so. Have your conversation in the chat of who you would go for at right wing back. And I will be back in just one moment. Okay, guys, we're safe. We're safe. No one is trying to kill us. The doggos are fine. There's a window cleaner next door, which, of course, inevitably needs to be attacked by the doggos. I do apologise for that, but I'm back now. What have I missed in the chat? What have I missed? What have I missed? Ahmad. People want Ahmad. I should do a poll for this. I should have done that just before I left. Right wing back. Dalot or Ahmad. Now, let me try and explain what's going on in my brain with the conversation here. Because there's the instinct of what you initially think when you talk about the two of them. And then there's how it plays out on the pitch. And then there's trying to find a balance between the two. We talk about trying to break down potentially a low block at times in this game. Fulham don't mind getting themselves behind the ball. I think United will look to dominate, will look to take control. And when you're playing against that, you need players that can break down a block. So you go for Ahmad. He's the player with the dribbling ability, the potential to work in tight spaces. His combination play with players like Bruno or Mbumo, should he start. Ahmad's got that combination play. He's got the ability to break down a low block with a bit of magic, that almost Messi-esque dribbling at times. He's going to contribute with some goals. Ahmad is an option. However, the other thing that comes into my brain is when you're trying to break down a block, I think the best thing to do is try and stretch and pin as much as possible. You can do that vertically. You can pin the opposition, so you can push them back with presence in the middle. But I also think you can pin them across the pitch as well, horizontally. And you can stretch them. And that's where you'd lean towards Dalot a little bit more. Because Ahmad, when he starts on the right, likes to drift in. Does that, in a way, make it a little bit easier for Fulham? Do they sort of condense the pitch as Ahmad and Mbumo both come inside? do we lose the stretching effect? You know, Dalot gives us width. Dalot will overlap just constantly. Give him a simple task, a simple mission of play wide on the right, be a running outlet. He will give that to us, and that could be a problem for Bassi. Bassi is a central defender. He won't want to be pulled wide. So that's just me sort of thinking out loud. That's not me saying one option is better than the other. That's just sort of the thoughts that are coming to my brain when we talk about these two this weekend for the right. I do also think about, you know, the physicality. Fulham are a good physical side. They're not easy to play against. Quite a lot of strong players, which makes you lean towards Dalot. Fulham are a team comfortable and capable of getting on the ball themselves and playing, so you'd maybe want Dalot. But also, if we are ever to build this Amad and Mbeumo right-hand side, which we seemingly want, you know, there's no time like the present. Get after it now. Try and make it now. Amad and Mbeumo are never going to get that connection right if they're never given the chance to by playing on the football pitch. So it's a tricky one for me. I think this is a game where I would be working towards trying to get Amad and Mbeumo together. I think this is the match where I would try and do that. I would try and get these two. Because, you know, Bassi is out of position. And if we can drag and isolate him, Mbeumo and Amad potentially up against Bassi is dangerous. It's very dangerous. I actually think Dalot and Mount are elite 60-minute subs in any game state. I completely agree. We got Grace in the chat with a £2 super chat. Grace, thank you very much. Saying, if Dalot don't start, I want Amorim sacked. Sounding a bit like Steve there, Grace. But thank you very much for the super chat. Guys, you know what to do. That chat right now should be full of love hearts. Grace, thank you very much for the support as always. Amad or Dalot? I mean, if we look at the poll, that's one-sided. 140 votes. Thank you very much. If you could also leave a like on the stream, that would be lovely. Do it. Press like. But 142 votes now. 83% of them say Amad. I think what we should say, though, is that regardless of who starts here, Steve made the comment a moment ago, and it works both ways. Dalot's intensity is great to have from the bench. Amad's creativity is great to have from the bench. Either way, we've got ourselves a nice bench player there. You know, either of these have the ability to make an impact after 60. I guess an interesting question, an interesting way of looking at it is, let's say it's 0-0 on the 60th, and legs are starting to tire a little bit and you need to rotate. You would rather Amad from the bench than Dalot from the bench for an impact, to create something for a goal-scoring opportunity. But then the switch side of that is you want to get on the front foot from the start, so you go Amad. It's a tricky one. I agree with Grace, but Amad all the way. But if Šeško starts, then Dalot's crosses will be very crucial. I mean, I'm going to end the poll, right? Because the poll is 84% Amad. So we're going to put Amad in the team from your guys' point of view. But I'm still happy to sort of keep talking about it, because I think it's a conversation we're going to have a lot this season. Because we've said a few times, Amad and Mbeumo is not going to click straight away. It's going to take time. Dalot and Mbeumo is the more natural link, because Mbeumo's best football at Brentford came when he had someone that would overlap and go around him. So, you know, this dynamic is more natural than this one, but perhaps this one has a higher ceiling, more potential. It's tricky. I do think, though, like I've said, early in the season, this is a game where I would like us to try and be on the front foot. So can we go for Amad? Can we see how him and Mbeumo are going to work together? The only way it's ever going to have any chance of working is by doing it. Put them on the football pitch together, see if they can figure it out a little bit. So I would do that. I think Dorgu will be more involved attacking-wise this game. I'm trying to think back to Dorgu's performance last week. I can't remember Dorgu against Arsenal for some reason. Could anyone tell me how he played? He did have one quite nice cross to Bryan Mbeumo, didn't he? But apart from that, like, his performance last week has just completely left my mind. Which is quite weird. Anyway, time for the conversation to the front three. Last week it was Mbeumo on the right, It was Cunha up front, and it was Mason Mount on the left. And I think they were brilliant. I think individually, the three of them put in seriously impressive performances. However, there was something lacking. We didn't quite occupy the box in the way that we would want. We didn't quite have the focal point. Cunha did a good job up against Gabriel, but it's not the same as having someone at 6'5" and used to playing and doing that job. So, oh yeah, Dorgu hit the post as well. What an effort. Oh, if that had gone in, by the way, from Dorgu, I'd have been going Larry. Anyway, it feels like one of the front three has to come out for Šeško. Because we need a striker. You know, I assume he's getting closer to being fit now. He looked okay in that 25 minutes he played. I think some of his movement was good. If he played 25 last week, I would imagine he's getting close to being able to start and play 60. So I'd like to see Šeško in this game. I think we need him. Trying to break down a team, you want someone in the box. The question is, who do you take out? Now, on face value, it's really easy. It's really easy. We just signed Mbeumo and Cunha for big money. They both played well last weekend. You start them. But Mason Mount was very impressive. One of our best players in pre-season. Had a better pre-season than Cunha. But then Cunha was amazing last week. Is it as easy? Is it as straightforward as Mount goes to the bench? Or not? You see, one of the things that was so good for us last week was our intensity. And in terms of intensity, you'll struggle to find someone better than Mount. You know, the way that he presses is brilliant. Even his intensity on the ball is very good for us. His tempo as well. Is it as easy as just Mount comes straight out of the team? But Cunha did give us so much. Cunha did give us so much. I mean, I guess a conversation we could bring in at some point, probably too soon just yet, is something like this. There is a conversation there. There's even a conversation there as well. There is something to look at with that in the long term. We're not going to do it for now because I don't think it will happen in game week 2. Are we feeling this? Is this what we're thinking? I can't lie, I feel that Mount starts. Not sure who I want, as all of the front three last week performed. I think I would like Mount to start because I like Mount and I just respect a human that has had the setbacks that he's had but keeps fighting back, keeps getting himself fit and now looks in a good place. I would love to reward the human there by giving him a start. But then when we look at the football, you know, you want to go win this game as quickly as possible. Cunha and Mbeumo and Šeško are your match winners. They're your match winners. Grace with another £2 super chat. Grace, thank you very much, my friend. Saying, I don't like inverted wingbacks. We didn't need Mbeumo. Ahmad right 10. Yeah, I get the point. I've made a similar point, a similar comment this summer that I would have gone the other side of the attack with my growth rather than the right side. But we are where we are now. You know, I would have gone Ahmad right 10, Šeško up front, Cunha left 10, a Semenyo left wing back. You know, I'd have built down the other side for defensive reasons as well. We didn't do that. This is what we've got now to work with. So now we've got to work with it and try and get it to work. But thank you very much for the super chat. Very, very kind. Also, by the way, Grace is not saying Mbeumo is a bad footballer. Grace is not saying that. Everyone knows that Mbeumo is phenomenal. Let's make that very clear. Grace isn't daft. Grace knows Mbeumo is great. But there is a different way we could have team built. Absolutely. There was that option. And I've said to myself a few times, I would have taken a different path in terms of team building. But this is the path we're now on. Enjoy the journey. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, thank you very much, Grace. And also, thank you very much, Chad, with the channel membership. That man is a channel goat. He truly, truly is. Even though I don't like talking to him, Chad is a legend. So Chad, thank you very much for the support. As always, my friends. And again, you guys know what to do. Love hearts everywhere. Is Šeško ready to start? we don't know, obviously. We are limited with the information we have in terms of fitness and things like that. I think it's worth a go. You know, if he's close to being ready to start, I would start him. The sooner the better. Get him in that team and let him sort of warm up and get a feel for it. That would be my plan with Šeško. I think if this was to be our 11... voice crack. If this was to be our 11... See, fan MUFC knows that Chad is a goat. If we were to go for this 11, we have good options from the bench again. I think we know that Dallow's always got that intensity that he'll bring from the bench up and down the right-hand side. That gives us something. We know that Cobby has the ability to come in midfield and bring us something different. If we need a goal, Cobby's ability to work inside the space is fantastic. And that's something that we might need. If the longer this game is tight, the more compact Fulham become because they start to think, you know what, a draw's not bad here. That's when we might need Cobby to unlock them with his footwork, his linking work that he does with players around him. Need to see Cobby in this game. I think he's got a big part to play. Ugarte is always someone who may replace Casemiro at some point for intensity as well, so he is someone to look at. Mason Mount has got to feel that if Šeško does start to fatigue, if he isn't ready for 90, could he come off? Cunha goes up front, Mount goes into the left 10. Absolutely, I think we could see that. So Mount is someone to look out on the bench. And also Xerxes. I believe Xerxes was on the bench last weekend, unless Xerxes was on the bench last weekend, right? I'm pretty sure he was. So he's probably the other one to look at. It'll be surprising if Højlund is on the bench. You know, I wouldn't expect to see that. Just looking at some of my other substitutes I got here. Maguire is always an option because Amorim likes changing one of his centre-backs or feels the need to, whatever it may be. I think it's a good team. And that starting 11 isn't far off what I would go for. I would be incredibly tempted to try and get Cobby into the midfield. I really would. But I don't think Amorim will. I think we've created the 11 that this is my prediction. Apart from, I think Onana in goal. I think we'll see Onana. Is it just me or did Ugarte look totally lost last week? Yeah, it was a really bad day. Really bad day. I think he's, apart from brief glimpses here and there, I think he's looked a little bit lost since he's been at United. Not helped by the unstable environment. It's a big season for him to really establish, I think, is he going to be a Manchester United squad player and be really useful for us? Or is he probably going to be moved on next summer? Don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. Adele in the chat again with a super chat. Thank you very much. Saying, I fear the goalkeeper will be horrible in this 11. Yeah, I would go Onana. It doesn't fill me with confidence either way. Casemiro's legs will give out in 60 minutes. Probably looking at Ugarte or Cobby depending on game state. I would like to see us pivot to Cobby if we can. 30 minutes if we need a goal of those two. I'd quite like that. But I like his ability to distribute the long ball to the wings. Yeah, that is what Casemiro and Bruno always bring. And perhaps what Cobby needs to add. That ability to be a bit more direct with the passing, the longer range. Although, please also realise, Mr. Midfielders, sometimes we can slow it down and we don't have to be quite as direct. But thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. And again, there's plenty of love hearts in the chat already. Can we hit 150 likes? David has asked. Guys, that is over to you. That is over to you. 150 likes. It feels very doable. But can you do it? Please? Please leave a like. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? So far, this is the strongest squad, but United have to prepare the first lineup without Bruno. I think that'll be a next season thing. What was the other comment I want to make? On the ball. First phase. Just quickly want to talk about this before we wrap up. We saw last week a good United team in the first phase. A team that played very well in these deeper areas. Did a video on it the other day, the way that we were sort of baiting Arsenal in and then sort of playing through them. With the intention not of building to slow possession. That wasn't our target, I don't think. The target was to get the ball forward very quickly. We have an opportunity, again, to do something similar. If we push the wing-backs forward, you can sort of see where we might look to hit. Mbumo and Ahmad against Bassi. Dorgu and Cunha on the other side. I'm still not convinced by this part. I like the idea behind giving them more space. Less players means more space, more room to work in. But you guys know I would have a midfielder in there. We did eventually see that against Arsenal. We did see Bruno Fernandes dropping deeper, and I think that helped us. I think, again, it just gives us more solutions in the first phase. So I liked what we saw here last week. We need to make sure we keep evolving it as well. Just because we had one good week, it's not finished. It's not a perfect finished article. We're not suddenly amazing in the first phase. We've got to keep working. We've got to keep coming more unpredictable. Something I keep mentioning is potentially a left-footed central midfielder, just to give us that different bounce pass out this way, rather than just always this way. But right now, we don't really possess that profile. I do still wonder if there's a way that we can get Bruno in the first phase, but that does have a knock-on effect on the rest of the team. Just something to keep an eye on. I enjoyed it last weekend, but just keep an eye on it because it's not done. It's not perfect yet. How would Fulham try and counter the first phase? It seems easy to counter. Well, what you could do as Fulham is ask us to do what we did last week, but be ready for it. Arsenal never had anyone ready to jump to Yoro. So when that ball went in midfield, and then we popped it round the corner, there weren't Arsenal players nearby. The winger was often tucked inside. Gyökeres was high on the goalkeeper, so Yoro had a lot of time. I think as Fulham, the solution is to have someone ready for that jump. So maybe it's Jimenez starts here and sort of cuts off that passing lane. Ball goes in around the corner. Have Iwobi ready to then trigger that press. That would be the sort of thing that Fulham might be looking at. Something else is, like I said, the predictability with the side that we play. In midfield, if I'm the opposition, I'm looking to press this side of the player. There's no need for King in this situation to come around the outside because the ball's not going to go that way. If you press this side, there's a chance you might nick it as he plays it. Think back to Christian Eriksen against Brentford in Ten Hag's first season. What was that? Our second game. If you go back and watch it, our build-up pattern was quite similar. That we would go into midfield to Eriksen and he would pop it around the corner. But Brentford quickly picked up on the cue that he was always passing with his right foot and coming this way. And eventually they clocked onto that and started gambling this side of him, and it worked for them. So that would be something to consider. What I do like, though, is that we can mix it up and go the other way. I think we did well with that last week against one of the most physical teams in the league. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel Calafiori. At some point in their career, all four of those have been classed as centre-backs. We played without a striker and still, at times, physically dominated them on the long ball, which is really, really promising. Add 6'5" Šeško to that, we've got something there. So I like that we can do it two ways. I like that we can play short and try and pop it in these areas, but we can also go long and create overloads high. Looking forward to seeing that again. How will Fulham approach it? I'm not too sure at the moment, to tell the truth. I think we need a left-footed centre-back. Yeah, well, Luke Shaw, of course, is that, but he's not the one that inverts in there. Will that change in time? Would that change with Lisandro Martinez returning? I don't know. It's difficult to say right now. We haven't really seen a sign, though, that that's going to happen. Fulham won't go man for man with our attack, and if they do, we can literally just go long. So that's the thing. That's the comment I made the other day. There's a psychological battle that happens when you've got good footballers. When you've got... how do we word this? When you've got average footballers, teams will take chances against you. They won't respect you. They will be aggressive. They'll go man for man and just back themselves. I don't think... as we head into this season, as the season develops, I think by the end of the campaign, no one in football will go man for man with those three. I just think they're too much of a handful. And as we've said many times before, if they won't go man for man, that means they need +1 on the back line. So 4 to our 3, shall we say. If they're doing that, we are going to outnumber them somewhere else. So the threat of those three, even if they don't touch the ball, even if they go really high and never get anywhere near the play, the threat of those three will make us better over here because there'll be less pressure on those guys. So, yeah, I do think that is something that will happen for us in time. Like I said, left-footed midfielder is also a solution. Stiller is someone that is spoken about. I want to do a video on him at some point if the rumours continue because I do have one slight concern. Let me just put Baleba in real quick. Let me put Baleba in. Imagine Baleba is Stiller. Okay, he's not. But let's just imagine he is for a moment. We've been calling for a left-footed midfielder for a long time. It's something that I ask for regularly. However, the problem is where they play. At the moment, Bruno Fernandes plays left-sided central midfield, and that is because on the right side, we want the more defensively capable profile, Casemiro, the ball winner, because we've got Mbeumo and Ahmad. So these two are more aggressive, they go higher, they're more attacking instinctively, so you want the slightly more defensively capable one behind them. Whereas on the other side, you've got Dorgu, who is a defender. When you sign Stiller, I don't know what you do at that point. Let's say we signed Stiller, let's say it happened. I don't know what it would do at that point. Again, can I change this name? I can't right now. Let's get a new player in. Let's get a new player in to make this easier. I know I just clicked defender and he's not a defender, but it doesn't matter. Let's bring Stiller in. On his left foot, is he defensively good enough to cover behind these guys? I'm not sure. And my other concern would be actually, as a man who's asked for a left footer, and this is actually a Baleba concern as well. We're coming almost too left-footed down this side all of a sudden. There was a moment in the final third the other day where we had Ahmad and Mbeumo, and Dorgu was over there at the time as well, and it was these three left-footers on the right-hand side. And they were all clearly trying to take a touch back onto their left before delivering. But because it was three of them all left-footed, all trying to do the same thing, it was quite predictable. There is just a slight concern in my head, even if it was Baleba that we signed, that we could have that problem where we become a bit left-footed down here all of a sudden. We go from being a very right-footed team to suddenly loads of lefties over here. I almost feel like the left-footed player would be more suited to this side. But that means Bruno shifting. Does Bruno have what it takes over here? I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about. Is Stiller left-footed? Yeah, he is. Stiller is too left-footed. Yeah, he is quite a one-footed player. You won't see many right-footed actions. I think when he does play with his right foot, he's not too bad. He just doesn't do it at all frequently. It's quite predictable. Anyway, let's take them back out. Let's go back to our 11 for this weekend and cover the final point, which is predictions. Scoreline predictions for this weekend. Yeah, Chad, that is the other option. It's just then, is Bruno defensively right to play on the side with Ahmad and Mbeumo? That's where I'm at. That's sort of the question that it raises again. It feels like every time we try and solve a problem in our team, we just open up another one. But if we go back to the point earlier of actually we shouldn't be trying to mask our weaknesses, we should be playing towards our strengths. You get Bruno on the right and let him cook with Mbeumo and Ahmad. That could be a lot of fun. With a lefty dictating from the other side. Sure, that could be amazing. Anyway, let's have a look at some score line predictions in the chat. 3-0 United, straight up, yes please. I've seen a 10-0. I wouldn't mind that at all. I've seen a 6-1 from Chad. Yeah, let's have it. Steve says 3-0 with 2 from Bruno and 1 from Šeško, making full use of the new emojis. Looking very beautiful. Callum has gone 4-0 United. Sadly, Dorgu doesn't have emoji. Not a new one. But he's gone for Dorgu, Cunha, Šeško and Kobe. 4-0 against Fulham would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. With Yoro behind them, go for it. We're really putting Yoro through it physically at that point, but who knows? We'll see. 3-0 with goals from Cunha, Mbeumo and a Bruno Fernandes penalty. That'd be handy for my FPL. 2-1, Šeško and Mbeumo. What I would love this weekend is, of course, a win, always. I'd love it if we can get that first goal for the new player. Whether it's Mbeumo, Šeško or Cunha, I'd love at least one of them to get off the mark. Get their first goal for the club and sort of start the ball rolling. That would be lovely, lovely, lovely this weekend. Daniel says 2-1 United. We got a 3-0 with 2 from Mbeumo, 1 from Bruno. Corey says 4-1. Mbeumo, Cunha and a Šeško brace. I mean, yeah, I want their first goals. That'll do. 2-0 Šeško, Cunha. My prediction is going to be... I'll get to David's first. David has gone 4-0 Manchester United in a super chat as well, by the way. David, thank you very much. 4-0 Mbeumo, Bruno, Šeško, Cunha. Beautiful. That would be beautiful. David, thank you very much for the super chat as always. Dorgu needs to score. Tell me about it. I had a bad FPL game week 1. I need a Dorgu goal. I need him to bounce back. Yes, David, thank you very much for the super chat. Guys, you know what to do. Support and love hearts in the chat. Plenty of them. Plenty of them. I'm going to go... Let's quickly look at the 11. I'm feeling 2-0. 2-0 Manchester United is what I'm feeling. Grace says 2-2. Don't get too overhyped. Yeah, I'm worried a little bit about Fulham. I think I appreciate their quality. A lot of good players there. And a good manager who sets them up really well for a proper mid-table side. But I am going to go 2-0. And I'm going to go for... Ooh. I'm going to go Cunha and Šeško. 2-0. Goals from those two. Please. Please and thank you. 2-0 win for Manchester United. And maybe, just maybe, the start of a 2-game winning streak in the Premier League. Maybe. It might happen. It might happen. For those asking, yes, we do have an FPL mini league. I don't have the code to hand right now, but you can either join the Discord, which is at the top of the chat. So if you go to the chat right now and look at the top, there's a link to a Discord server. It's completely free to join. You just have to click it. And in there, in the Discord server, is a channel or like a chat page, if you like, dedicated to FPL. In there, you will find a link to our FPL league and conversation about it as well. People talking about their teams, transfer decisions. Or if you head to our community page here on YouTube, community posts, scroll back 10 days, there is an FPL code there as well. Also, if you have a look in the chat, I'm sure people are about to whack it in. There you go. Will Cunha's be a usual screamer? Yes, please. Yes, please. No, I reckon it's a tap-in, actually. It's like a horrendous, scruffy tap-in 4 yards out. And Šeško's is 13 yards out, just left of centre. Fakes far post, smashes it low near post. Heard it here first. Heard it here first. Can't wait to be cooked and having a relegation battle. And that is me on FPL. For real, for real. But yes, guys, do join the Discord server. Anyway, we are going to wrap the stream up there because I can hear a car turning up at the house and the dogs are about to go mental again. Plus, I need to be leaving to do some more Stiller research and also Le Mans. Maybe a video coming there. We shall see. But yes, make sure to join the Discord server. Make sure to check it out. The link is in the chat. It is free. Literally free. It doesn't cost a penny. You just download the app, join, and you're there. And like I said, 700 people just talking about United, talking about football, talking about transfers, talking about tactics, talking about FPL. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. And if it gets a bit much, you can mute the notifications as well. So check out the Discord server. Hopefully I will see some of you guys over there. But in terms of, for now, this stream, I think we're finished. I like the team that we have constructed. Very similar to last weekend. I would still go Onana in goal over by India. But apart from that, it's very, very close to what I would do. I like the team. I like Manchester United at the moment. Hopefully that doesn't change over the weekend. 2-0 win for United. Please and thank you. That would be lovely. A good weekend. United finally on the board with the points. And we just build from there and get better and better. With hopefully some signings as well in the next week. That's the plan. That's the dream. Now we just wait. I'm going to wrap the stream up there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you very much for the super chats that we have seen throughout the stream. People renewing their memberships, gifting memberships, everything. You guys have been amazing as always. And I will now go over to the Discord to chat to some of you guys over there. So thank you very much for watching. And I will see you. Videos coming the next 3 or 4 days. And next stream will be on Tuesday at the same time.